Hello, everyone. Welcome to Freedomstein Laboratory, where truth and liberty bubbles up over the beakers and flasks and all that good stuff. I wanted to start today with a correction of something that I'd said in a previous episode. The one where I'm talking about TPUSA has me blackpilled. And I'm kind of glad that I have this correction because it's going to answer a big question that I had in that video. So, first of all, what I want to do is go ahead and share this from DD Got a Podcast, because that's where I'd gotten the information from. And they are the ones who are going to be issuing this correction from the auditor and something that he had figured out had happened here. So, let me go ahead and bring that up and we will go ahead and play what he has to say here.
And very important correction I need to make from something I reported in the last video. Specific to the salaries with Charlie Kirk and Tyler Boyer. So the way I presented the information, it appeared to me, based on how I pulled it in from ProPublica, that the salary was being like triple counted. So if you remember, we show Turning Point, Charlie Kirk may have received $400,000, and then he received that from Turning Point Endowment, etc. I need to be very clear that's not true. And the correction is Charlie Kirk and Tyler Bauer only received one single salary from the one organization. And how that got mixed up was the way it is on the 990. I pulled in all of the columns, and one of the columns is related organizations. So if you think about Turning Point Endowment, really it should show zeros across the board. But then there's a column that says related organizations. And TPUSA is related to Turning Point Endowment. So that's how they do it. And there's no excuse for it. I should have known better. I do know better. But I'm not doing this like in a vacuum. When you're doing tons of audits and going through tons of data, mistakes happen, especially in my world. And the way, at least I've always done this, is you just correct the mistake instantly. And that's that. You own the mistake, correct the mistake, be very clear on what we found, which again, to be 100% clear, one salary for Charlie per year, one salary for Tyler. And that's really it. I own the mistake, and it's that simple. And I guess the last thing I'll address, people.
All right. Well, so that's all that I really wanted to put out there. I wanted Brian to say it for himself and to explain exactly what had happened here. I don't know anything about all that tax stuff. I do my own taxes, but I don't do 990s and that kind of thing. It sounds to me like it was an innocent mistake for him to make. I wish he would have verified that before he did it. I'm sure Dee really wishes he did because his video went viral and there's a ton of us talking about it. And that was a huge chunk of it. But what I really like about the fact that that was a mistake is that one of the things that I mentioned a couple times in that other episode that I'd done is that one of the motives that I thought might be going on here is that Charlie Kirk wanted to do a DOGE-like audit of TPUSA because he was wondering, where is the money going? And I would be asking the same thing if we're bringing in almost $90 million for the year and we end up with $5 million at the end. So I like that we have this mistake here because I thought, or I'd asked, why would Charlie ask for an audit when he knows it's going to catch him doing something that's a little bit fishy? So now it erases that. I mean, him still making 400,000. I mean, he's the top CEO. I guess that's a fair amount, So it eases my mind because I really do like Charlie Kirk, and I hated to think that he might be caught up in all of the whatever activity we have going on at TPUSA. And it did take away one of the motives that might be out there that, if this thing is going to be found and blown up, it's not going to look good for TPUSA. So they still look really shady over there, but now Charlie doesn't look shady with them. So I just wanted to put that correction out there. Also, there was another video that was going around by a podcast called Wolves in Finance. I did not watch it, but I did hear a little bit about it. Candace Owens mentioned it. He had to make some corrections as well about some money going to Ukraine or something. But the key thing that I took away from the video that he made is he was also talking about these 990s. And if you'll remember, I said, it's really weird how they have like the 2022 and they just now released the 2023s for TPUSA. And I'm like, we're into 2025 now. So did they not release a 2024? And I thought it was strange. Well, it seems that they missed the deadline to get that stuff out, which would have been here in October. How do you do that? And that was one of the things that this podcaster with Wolves in Finance was asking. They were asking that question, but also when they went in and looked at the 990s, they noticed that some of the 990s were missing on the most recent filing. So the stuff that Brian was talking about there, where he kind of like overlapped them and put the ones that were should have been in separate or I guess they should have been in one column, but he had them in separate columns or something like that. Well, anyway, the actual forms are missing from 2 or 3 of the entities. And so this guy was asking, where are those? So just some stuff that has our brains going, what is going on here? And the other thing I wanted to address is hopefully you've been able to watch at this point Tucker Carlson's expose documentary on Thomas Crooks. This is the young whatever, I don't even want to call him man, whatever that thing was that tried to take out President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. It, a year and a half ago, and we still really didn't know anything about this guy. And I think Tucker Carlson had had enough. He was getting some insider information and he decided to go ahead and share it. And it's fascinating. You find out that this guy is also somewhere in that furries strange club. Now, I'll just come right out and say, I'm a gay conservative, and I'm one of those that wants to cut the T and the Q off of our groups. Like, that is not part of us. I don't even know why they get lumped with us. I don't understand transsexual stuff or any of that other stuff or non-binary. I'm a woman and I love being a woman. I have no problem with it. And I love women so much that I actually fall in love with them. So I'm all about the gender. I'm not about the non-binary. I don't understand that. How do you like no gender? Anyway, so it seems that this Thomas Crooks was into the same stuff that we're being told that the individual who supposedly shot Charlie Kirk was into the same kind of stuff. Now, we could go, oh, there's some kind of underground, furry, transsexual, violent group out there that has been planning all this stuff. And so, yeah, it's bigger than just these individuals. And maybe that's what's going on. And like I've said on a previous episode, I wish that those stories were true, because that would be so much easier to just believe, because I'd rather believe that than what I have to believe is going on in this country. And I'll get into that in a minute. But basically, listening to all of the information that Tucker Carlson had, I've come to the conclusion that Thomas Crooks was putting out a lot of violent rhetoric online. He went from being a total Trump supporter to all the way on the left. And somebody saw that they could do something with him and recruited him. And for those of you who follow Candace Owens, you know that she had suggested that people read a book called Chaos. And I got finished with that about a month ago. And it talked about a lot of stuff that I already knew when it comes to MK Ultra and, getting into people's brains and programming them to do things. And if you have these people that are already mentally ill, I mean, frankly, if you're into the furry transsexual stuff, I'm already thinking there's something mentally not working for you. You're like a sitting duck. And then if you're violent, wow, it would be really easy to get inside those brains and program them in the way that you want them to work. And I think that's what we have going on here with Thomas Crooks. But what really bothers me about this whole thing is that it took Tucker coming out with that for the FBI to come out and tell us anything. And the thing that they came out to tell us is a bunch of BS. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up too. And I mean, Kash Patel finally came out and responded. It took him, it took basically Tucker Carlson coming out for him to respond and give us more information. So this is what he posted on X, the Crooks case overview. Over 480 FBI employees were involved in the Thomas Crooks investigation. Employees conducted over 1,000 interviews, addressed over 2,000 public tips, analyzed data extracted from 13 seized digital devices. 13 devices for this one person? Huh. reviewed nearly 500,000 digital files, collected, processed, and synchronized hundreds of hours of video footage, analyzed financial activity from 10 different accounts, and examined data associated with 25 social media or online forum accounts. The FBI's investigation into Thomas Crooks identified and examined over 20 online accounts, data extracted from over a dozen electronic devices, examination of numerous financial accounts, and over 1,000 interviews and 2,000 public tips. The investigation conducted by over 480 FBI employees revealed Crooks had limited online and in-person interactions, which was totally proven wrong by Tucker Carlson's expose. This guy did have very little online persona after he was recruited. So it's like they recruited him, go dark, and then you're going to come out and do this thing where you try to kill the president. But they're trying to maintain that he had limited online and in-person interactions. No, he didn't. If you haven't watched the Tucker Carlson thing, he was thousands and thousands of things, lots of different accounts all over the place. He was very much online, and that's how they knew about him, and them acting like they didn't know anything about this guy till he comes out of the nowhere and all of a sudden tries to kill the former president who was about to be the future president. Planned and conducted the attack alone, bullcrap, and did not leak or share his intent to engage in the attack with anyone. So this is why I said I really wish that the truth was that these are just unhinged people that went off and did their own thing, because now what I have to believe is one of two things. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are either compromised in some way or they're just full on lying to us. And I could tell you, Dan Bongino better never go back to his show, because he has absolutely no credibility at this point, and he is a total grifter. And this is coming from someone who I had a political show from 2009 to 2013. And back when he was running for Congress, I think it was like in 2012 or something, I had him on my show, and I thought, I really like this guy. He's saying some great things. At that point, nobody even really knew who Dan Bongino was. And just basically, he's a former Secret Service guy for Obama. And that's basically anything anybody knew about him. And now he had one of the top podcasts that he gave up to go do the FBI thing, which I'll never understand, because he certainly didn't go there to clean up the place and make things better and tell us the truth. Anybody who saw him and Kash Patel sitting next to each other when they're being questioned about Jeffrey Epstein and did he die by suicide or did someone kill him? And they're both like, they look like they were in a hostage situation. Dan Bongino is pouring sweat down his face, and Kash Patel looks like somebody just told him that his dog had been shot, or I don't know. He looked like a deer in headlights, I guess is the best way to put it. And they're both like, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. And they're like, well, if you'd seen what we'd seen, you'd know. And it was like, it was another one of those times where the mask comes off, and you're like, am I in a simulation and it just had a glitch? Because that, So frankly, I don't know how Dan Bongino ever goes back to his podcast after that. And these guys, they all talk big, and then you put them somewhere where they can actually do something, and it's like, thanks. You really think people are going to believe this? Kash Patel really thinks that because he put out all these big numbers, I mean, we had 480 FBI employees on this. We did all of these interviews and all this stuff, and you didn't get what Tucker had? Because I know Tucker didn't do all that to get the information he had, and his is rock solid. And they come out with this right after that, like, don't watch what's happening over here. Watch this. Isn't this pretty over here? I mean, we're just not buying this crap anymore. Anybody who went through COVID is not going to buy your crap anymore. I already wasn't buying any of it before that, thank God, because when they started doing the lockdowns for COVID, I told them they could go pound sand. But it's just ridiculous. And something else that's ridiculous is Michelle Obama. During that show that I told you about, I used to talk about the Obamas all the time because he was president back then and how much she hated America. And now you've got this woman out here who is a multi-millionaire, multiple homes, living on the ocean, Martha's Vineyard. She's got everything. First black first lady. She was totally beloved back then. and she still hates America and still likes to talk about like she came from, you know, some over the tracks. I was on the wrong side of the tracks kind of kid and had to straighten my hair so that people would accept me. And give me a break. Anybody who knows your life knows that that is not how you grew up. And it's certainly not how you're living your life now. And I just, the way that I've always handled my life is that I sit there and I go, I'm so blessed. Look at all these wonderful things that I have. And I'm so thankful for it rather than griping about why don't I have this and why don't I have that and blah, 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 blah. I'll never understand people like that. One other thing that I wanted to address is Allie Beth Stuckey. I don't know how many of you know who she is. She's a Christian conservative influencer. She's on Blaze TV. It's the first time I saw her. And let me just preface this by saying that I don't really like churchy type people. There's certain kind of churchy people that give me the creeps, the willies, the I don't know, because I find the people that there's like people that you feel they're genuine, and then there's people that you're like, that person's not genuine and they're giving things like lip service. And I feel like you have this sixth sense about you and that you can read people. It's something I've always been very good at doing. Like I could tell when somebody's not genuine. I could tell when somebody's just not right. You just get that feeling about them. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. And the first time I stumbled across her show, I was, watching Blaze TV, and it was like the next thing that popped on. And I was like, okay, who's this? And I went, oh, I don't really want to listen to this because, I mean, I'm not the same kind of person as that, with the kids and talking about the Christian stuff and everything like that. I'm a different kind of Christian, I guess you could say. It's just not my thing. So at first I thought that was the issue, but then I was like, I think I just don't like her either. And she reminded me of a lot of people that I've been in churches with that give you the oh, you're so welcome and we love you and da 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 da, and then they're in the kitchen gossiping about you, or they're like whatever. It's kind of like we had this neighbor, my ex-wife and I, when we lived in Colorado, and he was the pastor at an Anglican church, and he had invited us to come to church, and we're like, okay, we'll go just to be nice. And so we went for about 3 weeks, and then he asked us to go to lunch with him, and we were discussing things at lunch, and what we believed and how we were raised and all this stuff, and he could see that we were both Christians, that we believe that Jesus Christ was the Lord and Savior and the only way into heaven, and all the things that would make a standard person a Christian. But then of course he said, obviously you can't be a member of our church though, and you guys still be married. So I was basically like, so you would love for us to be members of your church, but we have to get divorced. Okay. Obviously that did not work for us. We ended up getting divorced later for other reasons, but I don't like that kind of thing. And I get that kind of feel from her. And when she came out and wanted to debunk what Candace Owens was saying about planning events, and that TPUSA had planned the UVU event a lot more quickly than they usually do, that this is like something they usually don't accelerate this kind of stuff. I've done live shows, small live shows, like, 100 people are going to be there. And we would plan those things out 4 to 5 months, because you got to get the space, you got to get the tickets all done, and for people to get in and plan and get your stuff together. I mean, there's a lot of planning that goes into that stuff. And we're not talking about TPUSA and then having to do it like with universities. And then you've got all these universities that are asking for you to come. And so you've got to decide which ones. And so I understand when Candace is saying this is not something that can be done very quickly. And Allie Beth Stuckey was like, oh, yes, it can. And he had messaged me a couple months before a show that I was going to do with him, a live thing. And, they hadn't even decided what the venue was going to be. He told me it could either be this place or this place, and this is how much each one holds. And I was like, how do we know that he wasn't saying, do you want to do this one or this one? Not necessarily that he's like, we don't really know where we're going to do it. It might be this place. It might be this place. But irregardless, her point was moot, because you aren't planning it and you don't know when they started the planning. You aren't involved in the planning. You are being invited to be a speaker. That's totally different than you're doing the actual planning. So I was like, why is she even jumping into this? And all of these people that keep jumping in, Steven Crowder, and he's another one of them that the first time I ever heard that guy, I went, there's something not right about him. And then through the years, I've seen that my initial feelings on him were right. And he just doesn't seem like a good person, especially when it comes to his ex-wife. But so I don't know why she got into it and why she's had gotten defensive and kind of gone after Candace. I just don't understand why people aren't just sitting back and going, you know what? Let's let Candace do her thing and see what she finds. Because we all want to find out what happened to Charlie and we want the truth. Why are they working so hard to not do that? I tweeted out or I commented on X yesterday and I said, I don't agree with Candace on everything. And I don't know that everything that she's pulling out, she's had to correct herself on some things, is the truth. But what I do support and why I am behind her is that she has the guts to ask the questions. She's asking the questions that none of these other people are. Why? Why? Why do you guys all think this is just wrapped up and we're good? I mean, none of you watch the videos of Charlie after he slumps onto the ground and he's got his security around him and none of them have any blood on him. And you don't go, did anybody render him first aid? I used to go to Taekwondo tournaments and we always had a ambulance there. When you have an event, you have an ambulance there. Why was there not an ambulance right there? And why did they take him to a hospital that wasn't the closest? It's just these little things that start to make you go, something's not right here. And I mean, the stuff that Candace is uncovering, it's like they come out and they're really getting defensive now when it comes to those Egyptian planes she's talking about. I mean, you have to wonder, why are there Egyptian planes that just coincidentally are everywhere that Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk are at? Is it just a coincidence? And anybody who knows me from my other podcasts that I do about the paranormal, I don't believe in coincidences at all. So I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to continue to just sit back with my popcorn and watch what Candace is doing and hope that we eventually get there. This week, it sounds like she's really going to be spilling the beans on a lot of stuff. She's put out some license plates she wants people to track down, and I have no doubt that her audience is going to track a lot of that stuff down. I want to thank you guys for joining me on this Freedom Stein Laboratory. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, I love that I've been getting comments from you guys. It's just, a little passion project of mine that I've been throwing up. Please like, share, subscribe wherever you're listening. We're on Rumble and YouTube. I'm going to look into getting this up on a podcast platform too, so you can listen to it just as a podcast if you want to. And we'll just go from there. So I want you guys to take care. Have a great day.